and welcome to today's episode of Crescent Podcast. Today we're talking all about branding and in particular how rebranding a business works. So I'm delighted to introduce the lovely Amy from Bloom Creative, or as it's becoming, Bloomify. How are you, Amy?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good, you're welcome. It's so great to have you here. I love what you're doing. I've been obviously following you very closely on the socials. So you're doing a rebrand in real time. And as I said, you're sharing like each stage on your socials, which is just brilliant. But before we get to that, why don't you tell us a bit more about you and how you got started?
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, I run Bloom Creative, but it is becoming Bloomify. And that's a design and branding business. So we do all kinds of things like logo design and full branding, all the way down to things like small business cards, flyers, big signage, roller banners. So all kinds of things creative. And that's kind of headed up by me, and then I have a few people that I pull in on different projects if they're like an expert in a particular area. So I find it's really nice to collaborate with people.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's like a little bit about what I do in terms of work. How I got started, it was back in 2018, so we're coming up for 7 years, which is just insane. And I was part-time, I was doing this part-time. So alongside some other jobs, I worked for a charity as a digital media specialist, worked as a tutoring kids aged, I think 5 to 14 was the age gap kind of between the people that I tutored, and kind of all different sorts of things, volunteering, that kind of stuff. And then I built up my freelance work on the side. Eventually going full-time with it in 2021, and then I had a little rebrand actually in 2022 to become Bloom Creative, because I'd just been kind of working under my own name, and then here we are, kind of next step of growth, next step of kind of moving into sort of the next thing, I guess, which we'll go into, leading to the rebrand that's happening now.
So talk us through a general rebrand. How do you approach it? Do you just think, I'm going to have a new logo or I'm going to use new colours? Like, talk us through it.
Yeah, so there are various different reasons to have a rebrand. So that could be that just you yourself, if you are the sole business owner, you're a freelancer, you're not feeling aligned with your branding at all. And so you're not creating the best content, you're not reaching the best people. That is a reason to rebrand. Other reasons could be that you've grown. And so you look to amateur now, because everybody's got to start somewhere. You've got to start with often a DIY logo design, and now you've grown and you need to kind of bring, your business has gone like this and your branding stayed here, so you need to bring it up. Another reason could be that your target audience has changed, and that's the case for me with my rebrand. So attracting a different kind of audience and being really specific about what it is that would resonate with them. And there are a few other reasons as well. So there's loads of reasons why a business owner might decide to rebrand. And then when they do, it's a case of getting in touch, usually for some consultations and some quotes. That would be like reaching out to the people you know, asking for recommendations. And how I do it is I offer a discovery call. I think it's really great to get face to face with somebody and kind of find out what it is that they need, and they can then ask questions about what it is that I can offer and what I can help with. And then we go into a kind of creative process where my client gets to decide to be as involved as they like. So we go through sort of mood boarding. Before even that stage, I have a call with them, and this is my absolute favourite bit about rebranding, which is where I ask them why they started their business, what they're passionate about, what they love the most. And that just is something I love to hear from people, because it's so inspiring to hear like where their business started. And then we can use little gems of that to kind of build into the rebrand. And I won't bore you with the whole process in the softwares and everything, but we have a bit of collaboration. We amend until we've got the final kind of brand ready to go, and then I help them implement that.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Okay. So what made you think that you wanted to, because if you did a rebrand in 2022, what made you decide you want to do another one? And because you're changing the name slightly as well.
Yeah, so I've been kind of considering where I want my business to go. I want a more kind of unique, recognisable name, and Bloom Creative was great at the time. I had all of the reasons. There's a blog post on my website with the whole story behind it. And so because of that, I wanted to keep some of the bloom bit.
I love that bit, that the idea of growth and all that. I just love it. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's that whole thing, like, especially that illustration of a lot of the clients I work with, their businesses have gone like this, but their branding hasn't. And then we can like help their branding to bloom and then their business can bloom further. So yeah, I love the whole bloom thing and all the flowers and that stuff that I can get creative with. But yeah, so as part of my sort of business journey, I've been really leaning into the clients that I've loved working with and the clients that I'd love to work with more. And they're kind of in the travel, tourism, hospitality space. I am like addicted, I'd say, to travel. I love traveling. Pre-COVID, I used to do like 6, 7 countries in a year.
Wow.
And like I've not quite got back to that since. I've not got quite back into that habit, but yeah, I do all little mini breaks and stuff and I loved it. And things like escape rooms and theme
Yeah.
parks and tourist attractions and stuff. And so I know that I serve my clients best when it's something that I'm also passionate about and love. And so then I just got creative thinking about different names. How could I create a one word name that's sort of snappy? And I've been able to trademark it, which happened. I got like my trademarks through over the last couple of months, which is really exciting. So it's like a registered trademark. So yeah, kind of, it wasn't necessarily a decision that's like I can pinpoint. It's been more of a process and gradual.
Okay. So then what led you then to want to do that as like in real time and like share it with your clients really?
Yeah, so I'd actually been kind of looking at different sort of companies' content and how it's really great when you get to see behind the scenes on a kind of different level. And you quite often hear kind of coaches, for example, are really vulnerable in sharing their own stories in how, not in like a cheesy way, it can go too far, but they're really vulnerable in sharing their stories and being quite open. And actually then that helps their coaching clients to know that's the sort of process that you would follow when you're a client for them. And I was just like racking my brains. How can I be more like open, more vulnerable, more transparent so that people can see exactly what it's like to work with a design and branding business? And then it just sort of was like one of those, you're walking up the stairs and you think, wait, that like I could do a rebrand in real time.
Yeah.
And it went from there. And so it's not been super planned out. I've not got a schedule. It's like one of the ones where your business always ends up like the last thing you work on because you've got your client work.
Yeah, of
And so
course, of course.
it's like a really slow process, and like sharing that, it means that there's a really long gap sometimes between the updates that I've shared. But I've had some really positive feedback, not even necessarily like, yes, we think you should, go with this design, but we really love that you're sharing this in real time. Here's my thoughts and opinions. And I would so much rather that than somebody just be like cheerleading for the sake of like people pleasing. And it
Yes.
sort of opened that conversation and made it more about the community and kind of sharing different ideas and answering questions. And so, yeah, I never set out for it to be kind of, I didn't have a plan, and it's
Yeah.
evolved similarly to kind of design processes, how you don't necessarily know what the end goal is.
Yeah.
And so I've really enjoyed that kind of so far, sharing the process as I go and answering questions.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love that I actually love that it's unplanned. I'm usually quite organised and I have my set things in that, but I love that it's flowing, it's natural, and I've been following your journey, and I love like what you shared something about the different logos that you were toying with and the type font and all that, and I love that, and you're actively engaging with people's like feedback as well, and it was all very honest and genuine, and it's just really nice to see.
Yeah, and I've loved that kind of sort of part where other people have enjoyed hopping in and chatting about it, and because it could have been something I just posted and nobody was interested in, and then there was no one to chat to.
It's one of those things with social media, you can never quite predict how something's going to go, if anyone's even going to see it, like depending on the time of day or what platform you do or whatever. But no, it's great. It's really nice to see. So yeah, keep sharing. What advice do you have if people are thinking that they need a rebrand? What advice do you have?
Yeah, so I've got on my website, I've got like a rebrand guide, which has a little bit about kind of the process and stuff. But I guess my advice would be kind of go into it with an open mind. So once you've kind of found the person that you're going to work with, if you go with an idea, that's brilliant. It's a starting point. But go with an open mind that the designer knows best, and they might come back with an idea that you didn't think of at all, but you really love. And so if you have that open mind, that's not to say that designers will just go, no, we know best, your idea is rubbish. It's more to say, like, your idea might spark a slightly different idea in them. I had that with a client not too long ago, and they really wanted a kind of watercolory feel, and I could see how that would work. It was very rustic, like it was going to suit their sort of look and feel of their brand. But then I had this other idea from the conversations we'd had and kind of learning their personalities and stuff that was really very different, and I thought I'll throw that in with the concepts and see, and they loved that one and went, actually, as much as we thought we'd like this one, this is exactly what we wanted. So having an open mind, I think, is really helpful.
I think having that conversation as well, like it's two-way, you've got to be open to it. You, as well as doing all your creative stuff, you speak at events and things like that, don't you? Do you want to tell us how you got into that?
Yeah, so actually that kind of starts way back when I was a teenager, kind of early teenage years, and I was active in a church youth group, and my church youth leader was amazing at kind of encouraging us to get up and develop our skills. And so, like 13, 14 years old, I was there delivering talks in front of sort of 20, 30 kids my age, and then I started running groups, and then by the time I was 18, I was like, it's a whole nother tangent, but with a group of friends we put on a 4-day event, and we like spoke and did kind of sessions and workshops and that kind of thing. So it started way back then. So then naturally, when I started doing like freelance and business and stuff, and the opportunities came up to deliver workshops, to do talks, I sort of felt like in my element, because I'd loved doing that when I was a teenager.
Wow. So what have you got any events coming up that you're talking at? What sort of things do you talk about? Do you do like branding, or are there other things?
Yeah, so I speak about design and branding, but also artificial intelligence. So I help kind of people who have no idea about AI, or who know about it but are really scared because whoever named it artificial intelligence just made it sound scary. So I deliver kind of intro to AI talks and workshops, but also more specific kind of creative AI, marketing with AI and that kind of thing. So you can see how it all links. Like I do a session on how to use Canva and Canva's AI magic suite. So it's the design stuff and AI.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got a few kind of bits lined up. So next week I'm delivering a workshop with Karen at the Digital Women Local event, which is going to be fun. And then in March, I've got a talk that I'm delivering on Canva and AI at a business show in Kent. So yeah, a few bits, and it's on my to-do list to kind of fill up my speaker calendar for the rest of the year.
Oh, that's amazing. I think what you're saying about Canva and like the Magic Suite and everything, I think I was using that without actually realizing I was using AI. And I think a lot of people probably are the same and haven't quite realized that that's exactly what it is. So it's definitely not as scary, like the whole AI thing. It's definitely not as scary as it's made to sound, or that it's going to steal everybody's jobs and all of that. I attended one of your AI ones about Canva, and that was where I realized, yeah, actually, obviously it's AI, just not obvious enough, apparently.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're really good. So yeah, I think I'll be at the Digital Women one next week. So although when this is going out, that'll probably have already happened. But yeah, so that'll be good. And I look forward to seeing what you've got planned for that. So I think the only other thing really would be, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those questions that, like, you always think, oh, surely I have an answer to like what I would kind of tell my younger self. And I think mine changes. Like year on year, when I've been asked this question, it changes every time. So I think probably at the moment, knowing where I am, it's kind of like, keep doing you, even though what you're doing is different, like, to everybody else. So I did do the different stuff. Like when I was in school, I was at a grammar school, but I did not want to go to uni, and I just knew that I didn't want to go to uni, and so I kind of went against the grain. And then when I left school and got into the world of work, I tried a few part-time roles alongside some kind of chronic conditions that I've got, and so part-time works for me. And then I was like, no, do you know what, actually, like, I'm going to go at this on my own, and I'm going to be my own boss. And I went against the kind of, the usual. And that was really hard at the time, knowing if that was the right decision. So I think just go back to my younger self and be like, just keep doing you. And it's okay to spend your 20s making mistakes and trying things and exploring.
That's the time to do it, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think actually it's probably your whole life is the time to sort of,
Yeah.
try things out and not be scared to make a mistake. But you've got less of the like weight of the world on your shoulders in your 20s.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I think, yeah, you do you is just, it's such a good like mantra to have. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been so lovely to talk to you. And I'm sure I'll probably have you on again at some other points to see how your journey's going.
Yeah.
Do you have like a deadline for when you think you're going to be fully Bloomify? Or is
Yeah,
that
well, I did have one, which was 2025. So no, I
timeline?
definitely have to be sorted for this business show in March, early March. But ideally, I'd like to get it done sooner. But we will see, because it's a process. I'm not putting pressure on myself. So yeah. But thank you so much for having me on. It's been amazing, and I'm really looking forward to listening to this new podcast of yours with all your guests.
Thank you. I really appreciate your support. Yeah, it's just trying something new and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I love it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for watching or listening, depending on where you are. Thanks.